All right, good afternoon or good evening, you solar YouTubers. It is 5:34. There, excuse me, choked him on spit. This is the start of the show. Kissies. Yeah, I got kissies. She's chilling now. Charging day is about over. I'm getting close. The fridge is running. It's just barely keeping up. I did start this at 58 amp hours, so it's done about 30, 40-ish, but 30. So the charging day is not good, so I'm gonna have to hook up the battery charger and charge it up tonight before I go to bed. So with the all-in-one system, I don't have to worry about physically doing that. Just plug it in and set the parameters, and when the voltage gets to the point where the charge controller is not keeping up, then the AC charger kick in, and there you go. But my Blue Eddy is still doing pretty good. I got just that fan right there off it. That's that 200 watt bifacial. So we're not doing too bad. Let's set at 10 amps, just enough to keep the fridge. And keep the fridge running. So, and I don't have enough watts coming in. I know that, and I won't be able to get enough watts coming in because that charge controller. When I get the all-in-one, the possibility. But the plans might change because I think code enforcement was out here today. Somebody was out here taking pictures of the property. I'm pretty sure somebody complained about my solar system up on the roof. So I done told the owner, talked to the owner about it, and if it's much of a complaint, because I'm not breaking any codes, because it's not $500 or more improvement to the property, because it's not physically attached to the property. It's up there on metal brackets. It's sitting on these mats here. So the owner said you can put them on the mats, so I don't want them, hurting the roof. That's fine. That's big deal. And then I got a 40-pound sandbag holding them down. So not the mats, but the bracket. So sorry about that. So what I'm going to do is, if that is code enforcement, I'm going to stick them down here. Only got 3 brackets. Put all 3 brackets down here. I got to, bring them down, set them up, and then do my stuff and come home. And right before I go to bed, I got to tear them down and bring them back up the stairs. So that's gonna be a pain in the butt, but I don't have a choice, and they should be fine out here. Nobody should steal anything. I made a couple of videos about complaining about well, the whole idea is I want to move out in my truck, get a slip-in camper, move in the truck, find some place at night to park and sleep and do whatever, and have a dolly to tow my Jeep behind a dolly. But I just found out here in the state of Indiana, you can't do that. You can't live out your vehicle. For example, the house over there has had that RV sitting there for 2 years now. But technically, in Indiana, you can't do that. You can't live out of an RV or a van. It can't be your permanent structure. And there's people living out of that. And then I ain't gonna show you because it's too bright. There's a there's a RV over there. They're living out of that too. It's a Mexican restaurant. They just put that up a couple months ago, and that's a crack house over there, and that's a couple. There's police over there all the time. So they used to be facing the other way. They used to be facing this way, but the door we could see the door, them coming in and out. So it was broke down, I think. I don't know how they got it moved. I seen them working on it one day, and I come home and it's moved that way. So I don't know, but now the door's facing facing the house, so you can't see them coming in and out. So, but technically you can't live out of that. And in the state of Indiana, even though you own your property, you cannot live out of an RV or a van because it's considered a recreational vehicle. So I just want to show you guys this real quick. So I was just going in here and just typing in questions because if you own your own property, how can the government tell you what you can do? So that's that question, you know. And this is the one of the answers. So um, property owners also have the rights to use and enjoy the property, including the rights to sell, lease, or beneath it or bequeath it. I'll hold that there for a second, pause it, and go. However, the government retains authority over the property through taxation and regulations. So therefore, you never own your property. You might own your property, but you don't have authority over it. You don't have authority over it. The government retains authority. How is that possible? It's like buying a house, and you buy the house, and you still have the government telling you what you can and can't do on that house. If you want to spruce it up and make it look better, right? Where you have to go down and you have to get a permit, because in Terre Haute it's $500 or more, and then once you get the permit done, then you have to, depends what you do to it, you have to get an inspection done, and then once you've done the improvement to your property, then next year on your property taxes, is your rent's going to go up because you improved the property. So it's I found that out this morning. Actually, last night I came across a couple of YouTube videos of people who are living out of vans, and Trump passed a executive order that outlaws camping in city limits. And I don't know. I didn't watch the video, go too deep into it. So then I came to start doing searches here on where I live in Terre Haute, Indiana, and found out that even though I own this property, I can't sleep. Well, I don't own this property, but I can't sleep out. I can't. I think they said 7 days, but you can't have that as your permanent resident because it's considered a recreational vehicle, like the camper. If I had a slip-in camper or whatever, I just find that kind of odd. We live in America where, we're free to travel, but we're not free to sleep anywhere. And it's just, I don't know if I'm not quite reading the law right or what. I'm just like, you have no rights. The government retains the authority over the property. How is that possible? I own it. It's like me for example, you own your vehicle, right? But you have to put a seatbelt on. The government telling you, hey, well, you own this, but you got to put a seatbelt on. Or you own it and the government tells you, well, yeah, I don't like the tires, you got to fix it, whatever. It's just some stupid stuff. So I'm done talking about that. So the whole purpose of my channel was to get this, emergency system, and then I was going to transition it into, living out my van, my vehicle. Well, that part of it is done. My goal, I'm 52, just had a heart attack last year, so I'm done. I just want to go and, put a slip-in camper or get a small RV or something and just travel. And I don't have the money to travel. I don't have a monthly income. I live paycheck to paycheck. So when I buy these pieces, I buy them when I have a good paycheck and I have no bills to pay. But with the skills and talents that I do have, I can hop in my vehicle and travel to a city when I'm running low on money. I don't have worry about rent or utilities or nothing. I just, find a city, pull into it, get a job, and work for 6 months or so. And when I get enough money saved up, I can just, hop back in my vehicle and take off to the next one and just travel and live like that. But local governments are stopping you. You can't do that. And then you have to have a permanent address for your insurance. You have to have a permanent address for your plates, and you have to have a permanent address for your tax returns. Yes, you can use friends or family's addresses and that be fine, but I don't have friends or family. I'm pretty much by myself. I do got 2 kids, but I'm not going to burden them with paperwork, and having my mail and stuff going to the house. I won't do that. That's not kicking on. It does it when it gets to 44 or 45C. So Oh well, so that's that. So I got my all-in-one coming. I'm still going to have the all-in-one. So I'm going to go back to focus on just a small emergency setup, and I'm planning still to get the smaller refrigerator, the 5 cubic refrigerator. I don't need this one big one here. The small one, they're like $200, and they only use like 34 watts an hour. I mean, 34 watts an hour after you break it down, and that uses 90. So I think I can go to the smaller fridge, and then I'm going to get me a little hot plate, one of those little infrared little hot plates type deal. It uses a lot less electricity than that does, and I don't use a hot plate very often. Um, Once a morning, if I'm cooking eggs, that's about it. Everything else is in my air fryer. So that's the next thing is to I'm going to have the wattage to run the air fryer, but I don't have the storage or the coming in or going, coming in or going out. So that's all. And then if code enforcement did get called on me, then I'm going to be really very, very, very limited on what the solar I can bring in. So um, if I do got to take those panels down, for me to get another 400 watts down there, it's going to be really impossible. So I'm going to have to do something with the system. Probably just put the panels up, and then maybe try to find some used ones or new ones that are about 400, 500 watts. You know what I'm saying? And just have to haul them up and down the stairs every night, and then I can literally build. I can build from that pole. I'll show you real quick. From that pole to that pole down there, I can put me a piece of plywood or something, a piece of wood going across, and then have hooks on it. So I can set the back of the solar panel on that hook, and then when I need to adjust the angle, just drop the solar panel down further. There's ways for me to have an adjustable solar panel with just one or two panels. I more likely use her porch because they don't do a whole lot down there. So have it down there. That's why I'm gonna put my my solar panels on the roof if I have to take them down. Just stick them there. In Terre Haute, it says you do $500 or more of improvement to your property, then you have to get a permit to do that work. Well, but my solar panels are not physically attached to the roof. They're not attached at all. They're sitting on those black rubber mats. They're I can have the panels off the roof in 10 minutes. They're not physically tied. So therefore, I don't need a permit because I'm not improving the property's value. They're metal brackets, so it's, you can't have anything wood attached to the roof or anything wood on the roof. So that's fine. And then I'm not tied to the grid. I'm not anywhere to the grid. They're just MC4 connectors. So therefore, I don't need an electrical permit to have that done. I don't need an electrician to come out. I done called one time because here about a couple of months ago, I just called down the county to see what the ordinance was for solar panels. And since I don't live out in the county, I live in the city, she told me to call the city. And I called the city, and the lady I talked to was pretty rude. My solar is dying off, so it's going to be pretty close. Pretty close. What's the coming in? Nothing. No, it's charged up, so it's already using off the battery. So I'm going to have to use a battery charger tonight. And so she was quite rude. So she basically said, you need a permit if it's $500 or more. It doesn't matter what you do to the property. If it's $500 or more, if I put a new toilet in, or if the owner decides to concrete that all down there, and that's more than $500, he has to get a permit, whatever. So if you prove the property by $500 or more, you have to get a permit. And then she told me that if I'm installing solar panels, I have to get a permit because I'm increasing the value of the property, and I'm not. They're not tied down. And then two, I have to get a electrical permit, so and have the electrician come out to make the connections. Well, it's all MC4 connections. I'm not tied to the grid, and I don't need that permit. You know, I was talking to the electrician. I called one, and he's like, I don't. You're in the gray area, but it's not permanently tied to the roof. And he's like, they're MC4 connectors, correct? I'm like, yeah. And he was like, no, go ahead, and you don't need me. So I don't need the permits to run just a 400 watt system. I'm not selling back to the grid, so there's no. So I don't see any issues. So we'll find out when it comes up. And so once I get the all-in-one hooked up, once I get the fridge and the hot plate, then I'm going to turn my attention to increasing the wattage coming in. And then, if that's not an issue on the roof, I'm going to take that, take the 400 watts off the roof, and go down and get me the the 400 watt panels, 500 watt panels, or whatever, and get the bigger size panels up on that roof. And I want to bring in about 12 to 1600 watts. Once I bring in about 1600 watts, then I'd be fine. And then the batteries that I want to get, it's going to be the 24 volt, 200 amp hour batteries. And those are about $1,000 a piece. So I mean, we got a far way to go on the batteries. So these are here are $200 a piece, and that's like, and for me to increase this amperage here, I got this in parallel, so I got to take it in series, and then so I have to figure out how to. So I don't know. It's all that's in the future, but that's it for tonight. Saturn gave you kissies, so we're pretty much done for today. 121, yeah. Fridge is still using 200, so I'm down a couple watts. So yep. All right, guys. Well, you have a good night, and I will see you in the morning.